this meeting to order. Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, 6 p.m. hybrid meeting agenda. Zoning Board of Appeals, Ayer Town Hall, 1 Main Street, Ayer. This meeting hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while the option for remote attendance and or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item of this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID number 857-9728-7177 or by calling 312-626-6799. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Samantha Benoit, Administrative Coordinator at tba@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 114, prior to the meeting. First item on the agenda is to call meeting to order. Second item, the meeting is called to order. Second item is the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda of Wednesday, February 21st, 2024.
Is it freeze again?
Oh, did look at the...
Oh, looks like it.
Oh, yeah.
Sam, can you still hear us?
You guys froze, didn't you?
We did.
It's okay, it's the computer's frozen.
Yeah.
Poof.
I don't think he... Sam, can you hear us?
No.
He cannot.
Want me to FaceTime? Just so you
As
can
long as that is okay with open meeting law.
I don't know if that is allowed within
FaceTime?
open meeting law. I don't believe FaceTime is allowed on open meting law.
Because they can't see him.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That being the case, I'm going to carry it on then.
Okay.
So Sam got us through the call to order. Second item on the agenda, approval of the agenda.
Second. Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Now with Sam being offline, I don't think we need to do roll call, correct?
Okay, wait a
I'm
minute.
going to do it anyways.
Yeah, just do it.
Mr. Ellis.
Aye.
Wonderful work.
Looks like it froze again.
Let's mute him over here.
Hold on just one moment, Sam.
Mute him from there. You have to leave the control.
He called me.
So Sam, it looks like we're having, hold on. All
Okay.
right, so Sam, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties. We can see you. The camera hasn't moved since about 5 minutes ago. Obviously, you can't hear us. Without having we don't really know if having you on speaker would pass muster with the open meeting law.
Robert,
All right, I'm just going to sit back and watch, Mike. Can you
That's,
take it, please?
you got it, I'll take it over, okay? And so,
Thank you.
just for this meeting, I'm not sure that you're gonna be able to vote, only because, again, I don't think FaceTime,
That's all right. Marilyn's
Okay.
sitting there at the table, I think.
exactly, so I'm gonna ask her to sit on in the public hearing.
All right.
Perfect, all right, thank you, Sam.
No, thank you.
can you see us through the laptop?
No.
Oh, do you want to?
No.
I'll just leave
frozen.
you on the phone so you can listen along.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it's just a blank screen.
Okay, I'm going to leave you focused on Mike.
Oh, gosh.
Put him up here.
All right, so we had a motion and a second for approval of agenda. Jess, I'm just waiting on your vote for that.
Oh, aye.
All right, the third item on the agenda tonight, public hearing, application for variance, apologize if I get your name wrong, Ellison Ross Stout, 52 Pearl Street, filed January 19th, 2024. I'm going to open the public hearing and read the public hearing notice. The Ayer ZBA will be conducting a hybrid public hearing at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, February 21st, 2024.
Really?
2024 at Ayer Town Hall, 1 Main Street, regarding an application per section 7.4 of the Ayer zoning bylaw submitted by Ellison Ross Stout for the property located at 52 Pearl Street, Ayer, Mass. The applicant is seeking a variance from the Ayer zoning bylaw, section 6.2, appendix B, schedule of dimensional requirements, to allow for a 12-foot side setback where a 15-foot side setback is required to accommodate the construction of a deck. For Zoom/call-in information, please contact zba@air.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 114. This notice was advertised February 2nd, 2024, and February 9th, 2024, in the Neshoba Valley Voice. Do we have the applicant present? Great. Please join us.
I'm just,
All right. If you'd like to explain your application, we'd love to hear.
Sure. So we are hoping to construct a deck, a new deck. We used to have a side deck, and the current design that our architect put together. Our house is right along the right-of-way where the power lines are, where Howard Street ends. I don't know. Some people use that cut through to get to the rail trail, including us. And so the property kind of on that side, the property line cuts sort of diagonally in a little, and so the very corner of the deck that's sort of in line with the house is going to be sticking over the line. So that is the corner where the banister will be, and then there's stairs down. It's a ranch house, but there's a hill that goes down in the back, so there need to be stairs on the back. So the setback required is 15 feet, and we're requesting that for that corner that a setback of 12 feet be approved.
Okay.
So when I looked at this, and they had all these plans about the house and everything, it said proposed, like you were putting in a new house.
Oh no, I'm sorry. When we had the plot plan updated to add in the original plot plan, when the person surveyed a few years ago, he didn't put the house on it. And so when I asked him to go back and put it on, he had asked for a copy of our plan. And so the dotted line area is the proposed area, but the house itself is physically there. So what we're doing, the full construction proposal is a screened-in porch, a deck, and a small mudroom on the side of the house.
Because on the variance submission, it says everything's proposed.
Well, it would be proposed.
Yeah, so if you actually look at the architectural plans, they make a distinction between what's existing and what's proposed. So the proposed, the mudroom.
Okay, and the photos and the drawings, it didn't look like the existing house. I mean, it looked much bigger when I went through the package of what I thought the house was.
Well, in the back, so most of the addition is on the back, and in the back it does look bigger because we have a full walkout.
Okay,
base,
so
that might be what it looks.
There's no other changes. It's just adding the deck.
Just the screened-in porch, the deck, and the mudroom.
and only the screened-in porch corner and the stairway are jurisdictional to
I think it's just
our judgment, right?
It's just the
Just
deck.
Just the
corner,
little
the
corner.
little corner of the
Just
deck.
that's just a small corner.
Yeah, a little bit of the stairway, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
part of the mass going into the stairwell.
Ron, do you have any questions?
No, I think it was a very good application. Seldom get architects'
With
drawings,
elevations.
and just it's incredible. Sometimes we've had professional people come in here and allow us to imagine what it's going to look like. You've done very good.
Jess, how about you?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. And Marilyn, I'm going to ask you to sit in on this one where Sam can't vote. Do you have any questions?
Not really, not really. Yeah.
Okay. And I tend to agree with Ron. I thought the application was complete,
Yeah.
concise. It's, a deck. But that being said, do we have any abutters present?
Did you get John?
I'm in a butter. Hi.
you have any concerns, sir? or-
Don't have any concerns.
Okay, great. That being said, anybody else, would any other members of the public like to comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Any kind of deliberation? I think we should at least entertain deliberation.
Sure. Do we have any
Okay.
deliberation?
Well, as variances go, this one is you can see that it's minimally invasive, if you will, to the side yard clearance regulations. Probably, if you looked at the total area of the building, I'm just trying to show you my thought.
Sure.
You're probably looking at 2% at most of this, even the project, the proposed project being in over the line. And the lot shape is wedge-shaped. That's something we should consider in our decisions. And this, you mentioned the power line. Howard Street is a paper road. Is that occupied by a power line?
There is a power line there, yeah.
All right. But still a paper road by the town standards.
Yes.
Right, so even your side yard is not, the way I look at this, your side yard is not a neighbor's yard. It's
Right.
unused town property.
So right away.
The right-of-way, paper road, whatever, there's a few of those around town.
Yep.
So that's all I wanted to observe. I don't know if anybody's...
I think that would be helpful for the
Yeah.
finding of facts, right, Sam?
Yeah, so that goes to, on Sam's kind of list of items, that goes to number 1. And he also, number 2 would be the next thing to kind of discuss with the board is, would enforcement of the zoning bylaw incur substantial hardship or financial otherwise to the applicant?
A literal enforcement in this case? Yeah, I'm going to say yes, but I'd be open to discussion with the board about that. I think the topography of the lot is part of it too, right? You're sitting in, you have the walkout basement for a reason, right? Because you cut right into that ledge. Ron mentioned the paper road, so I would say yes.
Yeah, so any, if I may,
Please.
any variance is going to be, because there's a overlap in the regulation.
Yeah,
So
but-
what was the question again?
So
I mean, it just seemed...
on the next, I don't know if you have this, you should have
You do
this
in
on
your
the second one.
Literal,
Yeah, would literal enforcement of the zoning bylaw incur substantial hardship or financial or otherwise on the applicant? So if you apply the setback, the 15-foot setback, she would not be allowed to build that deck, which would affect, because, based on the design, it's already, I believe it's how long is it at that point of a deck on the design? It would shorten up the size of the deck as well as
Yes.
affect the size of the stairwell.
Yeah.
the mudroom as well, really, that's the whole lines
Correct.
of those things.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it would be a
lot of
substantial
things.
redesign.
Yeah, it would affect the
Play.
whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
Yeah, you can see it right there. So, it would affect the whole design of the screened in deck. The deck and the porch, as well as the stairwell.
yeah.
Then finally, would the granting of this variance be detrimental to the public good and substantially derogate from the zoning bylaw?
It does not
I don't think so.
substantially derogate from the zoning bylaw.
I agree.
Percentage
It's-
to the
Right.
zone.
Okay. That being said, do we have any further discussion? I would entertain a motion.
I will,
Go ahead. You
I'll
first.
move to grant a variance to Ellis and Ross Stout at 52 Pearl Street for a 12-foot side setback where a 15-foot side setback is required per Air zoning bylaw, section 6.2 Appendix B, and this is as required to accommodate the construction of a deck.
Second.
I'm going to take a roll call vote just for good measure. John?
John Ellis, aye.
Randy Phillips, aye.
Jessica Gino, aye.
Marilyn Schmallenberger, aye.
And Michael Gibbons, aye.
Awesome.
So you're all set?
Thank you so much.
With that, I make a motion to close the public hearing for 52 Pearl Street.
Second.
John?
John Ellis, aye.
Ron?
Phillips, aye.
Jessica Gino, aye.
Marilyn Schmallenberger, aye.
And Michael Gibbons, aye. Thank you very much.
I'll send you the paperwork and that.
All right. So with that, we're going to move on to the fourth item on the agenda, the Affordable Housing Committee Working Group presentation from Janet.
Excuse me. You're supposed to tell the applicant that can an objection be
Hi, Sam.
raised to this by me? A certain amount of time?
Thank you so much for putting me on the agenda, Sam.
And everything, I send them a letter with the appeal period deadlines and all
Oh,
of
okay.
that.
All right, okay, thanks.
Hi, I haven't seen you guys since we voted on the 40B over in Fitchburg Road.
That's right.
So this is good. Thank you so much for letting me come in. I wanted to go ahead and, I've been going to the different boards and committees to give them an update on what we had, an informal working group. We've gone and the Affordable Housing Committee knows that there's got to be ways to get more affordable housing somehow or another within the town. And with that, we were trying to find ways to go ahead and do that. And with that, we were looking at ways to look at the different type of inventory. I mean, one of the things that the master plan says is that you want to make sure that you've got housing for all different types of incomes. So with that, the working group is a group of volunteers. You've got Ken Diskin, you've got Dave Seabour, you've got Nathan King and myself, and then we also involved people from the town. I went to the different committees, and asked if anybody wanted to join. And these are the 4 individuals that joined. And then from the town, we got Danny, we got Charlie, and Mike in his office, as well as Alicia Hersey. All right, so with that, we tried to make it, and again, it was informal so that we can just bounce ideas off of each other, because really, it's Danny and the planning board that's got to go ahead and do all the work. So I just loved it, because when we came up with ideas, I just handed it over to Danny and the planning board. So this way, like I say, we had the Affordable Housing Committee involved, planning board involved, the Disability Commission involved. So we were looking at, again, different ways to create a variety of housing.
Stop it.
And
Muting Sam.
that's right.
There's some text coming through and I can't stop it without shutting Sam off.
That's right. Well, I'll let you know
Ignore
when.
that sound.
Well, either that, when I need to point out something, I'll have you go ahead and send a text. With that, we had, the Affordable Housing Committee has had forums, so that you could see exactly what was going on within the housing. One of the things that Alicia did point out, and we are very lucky, living in the town of Ayer, we're very, very lucky. I mean, we've got full-time planner, we've got full-time building commissioner and such. We've got strong boards, so this is good, and then we've got great people living in this town. One other thing, when you're looking at housing, one of the postings that she made in the forum, and it's already on the web because it's been there for about almost good 4 months, is that we've got a variety of housing too. If you look at Ayer at the bottom here, and you see all the different colors, that means that we've got not only single family, 2 family, but we've also got multifamily, more than 6 units and such. So with that, we have that. Sam
a
can
good
go
look.
ahead and pull that up. Like I say, it's on the housing forum.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, no problem. We have that, but what we've been doing, and again, the developers come in, when the developers come in, whatever they want to, I can't say whatever they want to build, but whatever gets approved, okay, gets, and it's pretty much, it's been single-family housing. So this here is the other chart showing on how we've moved all towards single-family instead of trying our best to get multifamily. So,
Wait a minute, Janet, can I ask a question?
sure.
where do you get your information? Because it seems to me the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 different hearings we had were for duplexes, multifamily, rather than single-family dwellings.
Right, but this is up until 2020.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I should probably have preface with that. This is where, like say, Alicia cut everything off with the census.
Okay.
And this is based on what's actually been built.
Okay?
Well, the statement was, you said that the contractors were going for single families, and that's not accurate. So currently, in 2020, you're probably right. But in this respect, most of the stuff we've heard over the last 6-8 months has been duplexes are better,
Yeah.
But single houses don't come before us.
Correct.
Right,
That's true.
right. No, understood. So that's why, like I say, we got the working group and try to figure out, okay, is there something to do within the zoning, and looking at the zoning bylaws to enhance the opportunities for these duplexes or for these multifamily. Again, the working group is funny because you've got the condo units over on Central Ave. It's like, okay, these are ways that you can build close to town, all the infrastructure is already there and such, so that you have the ability to get multiple housing units within there, or dwelling units. Because that's one of the things that we were looking at, the terminology, making sure that it's all defined. So again, this is like some of the ideas. So what we want to do is see whether or not we can enhance the section 10.3 about inclusionary housing. And right now there is a limitation there of the 750 square feet.
That's what got West Main Street, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
That's what held up that whole project, was the 750.
Yeah.
Right. So what we want to try to do is, again, make the suggestion to the planning board is somehow or another find a way to make it more acceptable, more enticing to developers without having that 750 limit. However, we do want to put some sort of, restriction, and there is something called the Mass Multifamily New Construction Design Requirements and Guidelines. So it moves away from the 750, however, it is more, I don't want to use the word controlling, but it is more set forth of, this is how the bedrooms, should be.
Yeah.
This is,
If you want me. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
in this document, it's Massachusetts, it's the EOHCL, they changed their name from DHCD.
Yep.
So it's their document that they created on the design requirements and guidelines for affordable housing, for new construction multifamily. And within this document, they have a bunch of different information, like what type of materials to use, what the inside should look like, just preferred information. And within it as well is a target size for units,
Okay.
for affordable units. And so studios are like 500. 1 bedroom is 600, and then they increase as they go more within this document. And so what we felt was, if someone is going to come in to develop a multifamily new construction, we would like, this is going to be triggered, which is the inclusionary housing, because if it's 5 units or more, you trigger inclusionary housing. And this would give developers already a kind of a guideline as to what the planning board would prefer for design, as well as give them the ideas to what affordable sized units will be. And this also gives the planning board the authority to allow for units under 750 if they're in the inclusionary.
Now, preferred or required? Like when we talk
And
about
that's the
materials,
difference.
that's a big,
Yes, and that's why
Opting
in here
for-
we say preferred,
Okay.
because we can't require that.
and that would be just done at site plan review?
Yes, so when they trigger site plan review, this would be reviewed as part of it.
Okay.
Excuse me, you said that the recommended guideline was 500 for a studio, 600 for a single bedroom. What's 600 square feet is 20 by 30.
Yep.
So what do you think a two-bedroom would be?
So they have I didn't bring the document with me. They have it fully listed in that document, which I can actually send to the board so that everyone has that. It increases. I think it goes to 900 for for a two, or no, 1,100 for a two-bedroom, and then 1,200 for a three-bedroom.
Okay.
Does that help, Sam?
But I can get you the document so that you can look at the numbers.
Rural Hartford is over 750 square feet. That's not a huge amount. So you cut it from 750 square feet down to 600 for a single bedroom.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty dramatic.
So this is based on what Massachusetts, the DHCD, and the affordable housing for the state has noticed is what the best numbers is. And this is even what West Main Street proposed to us. But the problem with this was our requirement of the 750, we couldn't allow that because of that requirement. I agreed with the sizing of those units because, studios, typically you want them at a 500. They're smaller. It's supposed to be affordable so that the rent is not high because you're paying per the square foot.
That was market value. That wasn't affordable housing. That was market value.
I agree, but there's a difference. There's a difference between what we're
mixing up the water here.
No. Sam, you need to understand. Affordable housing, we're talking about small a, so it's making housing affordable. And then there's also an affordable housing component, which is inclusionary housing, which ours requires 20% of them are at an 80% AMI. So there's two types of affordable housing that we're discussing here.
So
where was the West Main Street market value? Yes or no?
Well,
both. They were both.
That was going to be.
It was market. The way I understood it when they came before us, it was market value.
They were both.
But there would have been a big A affordable component because
Correct.
it's over 5 units.
Correct. Yes, 20% of them would have been big A affordable.
Okay.
So they would have been at a 80% AMI of that project.
Yes.
And then
I agree with that.
So the rest of the project would have been market rate, but the 500 square feet makes it more affordable because the cost of rent is not as high.
Okay.
Because you base rent off of square footage.
All right.
Makes sense?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, so that's, like I say, one of the sections that we looked at was 10.3. The other thing that we looked at is since developers first go into, and Jess is looking at it right now, the table of use regulations, that table, to see whether or not there are things that we could go ahead and make recommendations of looking at the table to change it so that, depending upon what type of permit. All right, if it's a P, so it's permitted, means no matter what, it still has to go through the building commissioner. All right, it still has to go. And if he says it comes here or goes to planning board, for site, it has that control over it. If we go ahead and look at what type of special permit, whether or not it's going to be the planning board or zoning board, we were looking at A1 and A2. Yes. Pretty much, that column there. We also
Can I just touch on the two-family? So for the two-family, we made it by right. We felt that
And you make the recommendation.
making the recommendation that as the working group, we're proposing that it would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Charlie was a part of all of this, so we felt that allowing by right two-family dwelling will increase the amount of inventory we have in town, which in its own way, by increasing inventory, you decrease the cost of housing in the market, because less stock, more competitive, more stock, not as competitive. And we feel, the working group felt that allowing the two families by right in the A1 and A2 zone will allow more duplexes to be built within these A1 and A2 zones, which will increase the inventory. And we felt that within these zones, in A1 especially, you're having 40,000 square feet for a lot. So the impacts of a two-family is not really as big as it is as you would anticipate, because you already have such a big lot. as well as the A2 zone, which we currently already deal with, is you need 12,000 or 24,000 for a duplex. We also felt that it wasn't as bad of a, there wasn't really a negative impact on the neighborhoods in that area for a duplex.
So in I'm sorry. Go ahead, Charlie. Please,
expand
jump
on
in.
Yeah.
what is, so I took a few minutes to write this down. So, the first fact I came up with is two-family dwellings are already permitted by right in every other district without SPC, except for industrial where they're not allowed at all. Two, appearance-wise, 1 and 2 families could be the same home. I draw plans, I could take a split, and just by splitting the entrance there, you can go up, you can go down, you can put the 2 other exits on the rear. No one knows it's a 1 or 2 family home by appearance. Occupant load, I know that was a concern that 2 families have more of an occupant load, but by the building code and the state sanitary code, you can actually have more people that, if the house is on sewer, in a 1-family home, because if you have a 2-family, you need 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms by code. That takes up square footage. So if you didn't have to have that, you could have more bedrooms, hence more occupant load in a 1-family than a 2-family. And also, since the town is looking, this is how it all started, for more affordable housing. When a developer buys a lot, the cost is the land and the site work is included. So now we are putting 2 units on 1 lot, the cost goes down. And on this is a rough average, it's about $250 per square foot per unit for a duplex 2-family, and $350 per square foot for a single family, which equates to a 2,000 square foot unit, I'm going to call it, for sale for $500,000 compared to $700,000, which isn't, to Sam's point, affordable, but it's more affordable, is the way I'm going to term it. When younger people are looking to buy a house, it lets people stay in there. And as Danny said, our zoning already regulates the conditions for where 2 families are in section 5.2 and 6.2 with the square footage and everything. And also, when a developer looks at it, it's not much of an expense in the cost of a home or a building, but going to the ZBA for something that's already permitted by right in every other zone but A1 and A2, it adds an expense and a time frame that's costly to a builder, and he may say, hey, I just want to put in a 1-family instead of this, so I don't have to go through this because I need to get my investment back. So it kind of made sense to me when we were talking about it that since they are permitted, since you could actually have a larger occupant load in a 1-family than a 2-family, and that we could have some sort of regulation put in place with this that it has to look like a single-family home, which is just like the entrance and the foyer and how you handle it. That it all made perfect sense just to make it permitted in A1 and A2. And it wouldn't be taking away the 12,000, 24,000. You'd still need that. So everything else would stay in place except for it would be permitted by right through the building department. And as Janet said, that when they come to me and I do my review, I send it to you guys, if it calls for it, or the planning board or conservation. So there's always a check and balance there for everything.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Charlie.
if I understand this correctly, if I get down to the final analysis, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce the size of the living space in a building. Is that what I'm getting? Is that what I'm hearing?
So when you have a duplex, you're going to have a little bit of a small. You're not going to have a.
No, I'm going back to the square footage for a apartment or whatever you want to call it, a unit. A housing unit.
Yep.
And our bylaw says 750 square feet.
Yep.
So if I'm understanding this proposal correctly, what you want to do is do away with that.
No, so, sorry.
That's what they just said, Charlie.
No, I'll explain it to you because that was the initial discussion within the group, and I fought against it because I believe the 750 square foot is the right size for in a neighborhood. All this is attached to is for the inclusionary housing for when a big development comes in, they could have smaller units in there. The other part of our zoning does not change whatsoever for the 750 square foot, and you need 400 on one floor and 350. All that stays. It's only for inclusionary housing that the planning board can reduce the size down a little.
Yeah, so if it's anything less than 5 units, the 750 still applies.
All right, thank you.
So I get a question about this. So knowing that we're going to be keeping the dimensional requirements, at least
Yeah.
in its current iteration, how many parcels would this unlock for the development of two-family homes?
No more than there are now. They still have to meet the dimensional requirements that are in the book now.
No, but I mean,
Oh.
but by allowing it by right, how many more parcels do we potentially have to develop as two families versus?
The inventory of.
Right.
of
Well, so
existing-
in the A2 zone, it would be the same amount because you would have, it just would have had to have gone through the special permit for that. A1, it was not allowed, I don't believe it was allowed.
What's that, two-family?
A and B were both by special
So
permit.
in A1, I mean, yes, there's gonna be some lots that could be open. I mean, if someone wants to tear down a single family and build a duplex,
Right.
they would be allowed to do that.
But it's exactly what we have in the town now.
Yeah.
Is what would be allowed later. If you could do it now, the only thing we're changing is saying that because the one family and two family are so similar within style, appearance, occupant load, building code, sanitary code, that why go through the extra expense and time for a developer when the town's looking for more affordable housing, and just put it permitted under the building department or the building commissioner, where it is in GB, Form B, everywhere in town, except for light industrial, where they don't, in the hospital section, where they don't allow it anywhere. That's all we're trying to accomplish here, is to make it easier for people to do it and to give more affordable housing to the town through this avenue, because we can't just rip apart the whole zoning book, and this was the easiest way we felt to make it a little quick.
And typically, typically between the, in residential zones, single and duplexes are typically by right in most towns that I've worked in and that I've seen. And reviewing their bylaws as well, that's a typical, most planners, when you're doing the, like for the AICP, there's a section about, they talk about residence sections within, and then there's like they step up between the zoning, and that's kind of how Euclidean zoning is working, which is what this is. Okay. It steps up, so it's a little bit more restrictive. So you can't have residential in certain sections. You can have commercial. You can have industrial. And when you have residential zones, typically single families and duplexes are allowed by right.
Okay.
So the only thing one of the things I would note though is the way it's currently structured with special permits for A1 and A2, that allows for a butter input in a neighborhood about how things are going to impact a neighborhood.
Well,
And if we change that to by right, doesn't that eliminate not only our discretionary approval or whoever's, but also input from people in that neighborhood?
it would, because it would be by right, but the whole point of everything I brought out is that why are we trying to control the neighborhood when you could have a one family that's 3 times the size of a 2 family and we can't say anything? We could have more of an occupant load in a one family and I can't say anything or we can't do anything. So it should be fair all around. Just because they're building a 2 family, it doesn't mean that they're gonna have more people. It doesn't mean that they're gonna have a larger house. So what's the difference?
I disagree with that, because we've had a couple come before us that were duplexes that did not fit the area. We've had this discussion.
Yeah, but I'm saying even,
And you want to take the discretionary judgment away from us. That doesn't make sense.
no, so the thing is, you may have them come in front of you that doesn't fit the area, but if they come in with a one-family house and they wanted to, they could make it 10,000 square feet as long as it met current setbacks for zoning. And they could come in with a duplex for 3,000 square feet, so who's to say? So why even have it? That's just my opinion. And it's permitted, you could say the same for every other zone. General business has housing, they're gonna put a house on Habitat for Humanity right behind us, in downtown form-based code. That is right downtown, and that's a permitted use, and the planning board nor myself or the ZBA has any say in what goes there. It's just the point I think we're doubling up. And years ago, I didn't want to get this deep, but I think it happened because years ago, towns only had building inspectors, and they just did inspections, and they didn't have professional planners and stuff like that, but they always had a ZBA. So it was natural, go to the ZBA because the building inspector's not there, the planning board's not there. But times are changing, and like I say, I have a checklist of 10 different boards or commissions I may have to send people to, and that's my job, and I get paid for it. So I have this extra step that just adds expense and money, especially if this affordable housing group is looking for more, and we don't want to deter them from that with this extra step when it really doesn't matter, because like I say, you could have a bigger one family, a higher occupant load in the one family, an uglier anything. So that's just my opinion, and I'll stop there because that's my personal
Doesn't this
opinion.
put too much, an inordinate amount of pressure on zone A2? A2 lots are already smaller. So now you're saying you can put in higher density per lot?
Nope, we're not saying that. You can already do it. You can only do it if they have the 24,000. You can't do it on the 12,000.
But to allow two families in the A1 zone where you have, 50,000 or
40,000.
40,000, that's less of an impact than putting two families in
But what's the difference in the
smaller
impact
A2
when you
lot?
can, on an A2 lot, you can still put a larger house with a more occupant load? It doesn't matter, that's by right, with no one, you can't say nothing, planning board can't say nothing, I can't say anything, it's allowed by right by our zoning. I just think it's like when light industrial was left at 120,000 for a lot, and heavy industrial was 40,000. It was just something that slid by for years without anyone noticing, and then Ken found it and said, look, this doesn't make any sense, it was a typo. But the same with this zoning, because they can put a bigger house of larger one family than they can a two family, and have a larger occupant load in a one family than they can a two family, why not let them do a two family by right and have a more affordable house for younger people? Because houses are in the $800,000 ranges now.
So you're suggesting that the two-family, the duplex, was a typo?
No, I'm just saying, it was something that's never been looked at over the years, and it just so happens when Janet got this group together, we were talking about how to get more housing and affordable housing.
On the same size lot than what we allow now.
What's that?
You want to put more people on the same size lot? than
No,
what we allow now?
nope, you can put more people in a one family than you can a two family by the state building and sanitary code for what it requires for inside one unit. You don't have to double up for a single family, so you can have more square footage for bedrooms.
And in my professional opinion, in my years of construction and working for other towns, a duplex does not have really that much more of an impact than a single-family home does. It just doesn't. I know.
That might be your professional opinion, but I disagree with it.
And that's fine,
Yeah.
but that's why I'm here and I'm the professional giving you my opinion. I just think.
Are you suggesting I'm an amateur?
That's for a planning board meeting if they decide to bring that forward.
Is that what
We're just telling you what we talked about at our meeting.
These are
That's
just
all.
opinions.
All right, we're done. I'm done.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
Jess?
So as I understand it, I just want to say, to be clear, the duplexes are not allowed by right at the moment in A1 or A2.
Well,
That's what the change would,
Well, there's a question about that because they're allowed by special permit. Can you not allow it through a special permit? I say that a special permit is a permit, just like a by right permit, except for you can condition it, whereas a duplex came in, you can't really say no, I don't believe legally, unless there's some far-reaching hazard or something, but you could condition it saying, well, we want both driveways on one side or something minor. I do believe that it's a special permit, so the key word is permit, whether it's by right or through the ZBA or through the planning board. It takes a lot to, I believe, to turn down a special permit.
And I'm actually going to be giving the board a presentation on special permits. So he is correct in the sense of their special permits are also called conditional use permits. Their use is basically like, so if you think about a residential neighborhood, if you have a gas station or a convenience store, that is something that typically needs a special permit, but it's allowed in that residential neighborhood. It's for uses that may have a adverse impact, but the conditions can be used to negate those. And that's why within the special permit criteria, you have to go through each one of those. And if there's, say, 4 of them that are in the affirmative and 2 are negative, then at that point it tells you that this is something that should be passed as and approved as a special permit, because the negatives need to outweigh the positives within those criterias.
But even number 4 on the list is a very subjective one. How is the neighborhood character and social structures affected? That's a very subjective.
They all are.
And that's understandable, and that's why you discuss those. So if, say, that's the one that you guys get hung up on, but the others are still in the affirmative, just because one is not in the affirmative doesn't give the board the authority to deny it.
And I also believe...
What does give us the authority to deny it?
If the negatives outweigh the positives. So if 4 of them were negative versus the 2, versus 2 positives of the special permit criteria, that's where the planning board has the authority to deny it.
Right.
I seem to remember we had one duplex that came before us, and it met all the requirements. However, the abutters overwhelmingly fought it.
But I don't believe that there.
Then that's legally not.
It doesn't show up on your list.
And legally, that's not something that the
reason to
board
deny
can deny it reasonably. That would be something that, if was taken to court, we would lose in a heartbeat.
I agree 100%.
There's no question about it. It was subjective, but if you got 30 people saying, we don't want this around us, we have to listen to them. It's the town's people.
And I agree with you, but that's why there's an appeal process. If they want to appeal it, that's where they have the right to appeal it.
It's just when I make my zoning decisions, everyone has the right to either appeal my decision to your board or go for a variance. So we're not losing any checks and balances here. And for you're going on the social economic, it's more, between a 1 and 2 family is what I'm going to go back to for that question, because you're saying how we do it. Mm-hmm. The big picture is, if you look at it minutely and say, oh, they're going to ask the people, we're going to have 12 kids in here and 2 kids here and blah, blah, blah. That's one thing, but you have to look at the big picture. When you have a 1 family and a 2 family, and they can be equally, the occupant load can be equal, there's really no social economical change there. So even though it is subjective, I think you need to look at the bigger picture of, I don't want to continue this because it's going to be at the planning board, but he's going to give his presentation.
Yeah. I have to give a presentation to the select board, to the planning board. And just one quickly, because on the characteristics, that's where you could condition that the front of the house looks like a single family, so that it matches the rest of the neighborhood.
But ultimately, then, the approval of these changes falls on town meeting.
Correct.
Correct.
Oh, yes. So we're going to, we're going to have, that's one thing that, we emphasize.
The process is going to be like any other town meeting. I'm going to go to the select board on the 6th to get the presentation. They'll, go through the warrants, and then on March 12th, the planning board will hold a public hearing on these warrants, and then from there, if it gets recommended, it goes to town meeting, and the town meeting makes the final vote.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's true about that.
Yeah.
Okay, and,
So that-
emphasize the public hearing, that other people can go ahead and voice their concerns.
And granted, there was 6 or 7 of us on this group, and we didn't all agree. Through the whole thing, we didn't all agree, and it was many hours of doing this.
Yes.
So Janet just wanted to give you guys the information, and I wanted to make sure we gave a little background information on the one versus two family, because a lot of two families have been denied lately or not been given the permit, and I don't believe that you can really do that without some other. I know you did. I don't agree with it. I'll just say it straight out. I don't agree that you can, because it is a permit. It's just a special permit.
And one of the things too that with the working group is Ken was able to look further at some of the older zoning bylaws, and they used to have something called cluster housing. Okay, where if you're able to put, groups together. So things have changed throughout the years, and with that, again, this is just something of, we need affordable housing, and we've got to figure out ways to get that within the town. We've got people who work in this town who can't live in the town. I mean, I'm not only talking about town employees, but I'm also talking about a lot of the businesses here. And if they can't have their employees living here, a lot of them, will go ahead and look and say, okay, great. Devon's is growing. With Devon's growing, we've got an opportunity there too as well. These are people who will move into the town and be part of our tax base. All right, instead of, just again, we don't want to lose the resources that we have here. So when we hear that from the Affordable Housing Committee, we're just trying to figure out ways to make it doable. All right, and that's why again we're looking at the inclusionary housing as well as this chart. We're only focusing on residential because that's the only thing, I'm looking at is the Affordable Housing Committee, and such. So putting that all together, again, it's work that the planning board's got to do. Right. They've got to have their, public hearing and definitely have people come in, to give the feedback. And it's got to go to town meeting in April to either say yay or nay. But I don't know, how much more. We want to make sure that the form-based code for downtown is all, on the chart. They're all in sync, as well as the other item is what do you call it? When we're calling it dwelling units, we're taking out the words apartments.
Yeah, because we don't actually have that within
we don't have
our
that
definition.
Dwelling unit. So that's the only thing on this 5.2 table. Those are the items that we're looking at. Yeah, and I know the townhouse and multifamily. We're looking at that again. Multifamily, being areas that you're able to put in, more complexes, that they can go ahead and have smaller units and such.
Multifamily. I watched the last planning board meeting. Ken, what was multifamily? Because I thought you brought it up.
It's
I got a few other things to mention.
Okay.
But the reason I brought that up at the planning board meeting was there's some confusion. Oftentimes people say multifamily when it's two.
Okay.
And the duplex in our zoning is not a multifamily unit. So one family, a two family, and a multifamily, so three or more. Okay. So that term gets loosely used. I've heard it used at a number of boards. And I was just trying to clarify at the planning board when we talked about multifamily and the changes that would identify buildings that have three or more units in it.
Okay. And did you say you had a couple other points?
Yeah, I first of all, I wanted to thank everybody here tonight for taking this explanation, because I kind of know it's pretty controversial. And I want to thank Janet, for representing us at the working group. So the working group, just to back up on a couple of things. I don't think we talked about how many months we met, but it might have been in the vicinity of 6 months, something like that we met.
Almost 12.
Almost 12? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Don't give our attendance record.
So there was a lot of conversation about this particular topic. But I want to remind you, everyone that's here and tonight, that this comes from the affordable housing angle. So it's starting from a premise that is basically a little bit different than just looking at the whole zoning table. There may be many little issues around the table. We're focusing on what we think would promote affordable housing. I think you've heard me say that before. I did have the pleasure of attending the Zoning Board of Appeals meetings that when two family units were talked about and were denied. And I agree 100% on the fact that you really have to, you want to look at every situation and think about it, and maybe, does require a special permit or some other type of regulation. So I think what we're trying to do here is take it to the point where we have these kind of discussions and then see where it all goes. Maybe it doesn't make it through the planning board to the town meeting, I'm not sure. But I think I would lastly like to make sure I invite everybody in this room tonight to go to those planning board meetings and voice your thoughts and opinions. If we don't, I don't know how we were going to give everyone an official invitation.
So yeah, the legal notice will be going out soon, but I'll make sure that all the members, all boards, I'll have Sam, I'll work up something with Sam and then have her send it out to all the boards to make sure they know.
But there's one little twist to this that's interesting, and when I sat on these committees, the subcommittee and working group, was that I want to say 3 members of that group at least lived in 2-family homes in the town of Ayer.
Yep.
And we all know that as we drive around the town of Ayer, there are many areas in town that were created in the past that turned single families into 2 families. And those opportunities gave people a chance to get a start. And we're trying to fight a market that is so powerful. Yeah. So we're just taking one stab at it to try to figure out how do we stay ahead of the market and how do we make progress. People are going to come to the town because they love it.
Yep.
If we give them more opportunities, I think they'll just be a benefit to the town. And that's where we're coming from.
Great, thank you.
All right.
You've done great work, but my only hesitation with this whole thing is if you just allow duplexes to be built in A1 and A2, there's no developer that's probably not going to do a duplex. Just because of
It's the market. It goes, I get the housing report, the Dodge housing report, and I have them at my office and you can look at them. They do it for the whole country. Once a month I get the report. Sometimes 2 families are up, sometimes single families are up, and that's I have to fill out how many homes in Ayer and send it in monthly or I'm in trouble. So it's very accurate, and it swings. It all depends it's all about the market.
Yeah, well,
and we can't change that.
And the ideas you've come up with are great, but I'm just, Ayer has a history of, like, when the Army came in, it changed the town because nobody had a say in how Ayer was going to be developed, and I'm just afraid by pulling the duplex and just making it available in practically every housing unit, we're sort of getting that pulled away from us again.
I don't, can I say that?
We're not allowed to get everywhere.
Yes.
No, it's a difficult standard to get.
But I mean, it's basically, I think the chances are good that those single-family houses will be...
Well, the thing is, it was before zoning that all these got created. I mean, I was born in here in 1960, so I've been through the whole thing from start to finish. I still live in here. These back houses were built for the tannery, very small.
Yeah.
Their kids left, the tannery shut down, there wasn't much money. They turned them into 2-family, the military rented them.
Yeah.
So that's why we have a lot of 2 families in town, and I was, in the beginning, I was not for more 2 families because the town has quite a bit. But the way the economy is, in the financial situation, if we don't give the kids or the employees of people who have businesses here something cheaper than $800,000, we're not going to have new kids moving in. We're not going to have more kids in our school system. We're not going to make our town more vibrant because we're not letting this. And where it is already allowed by a special permit, the key word again is permit. It's just special where you could put a condition, but as I said before, these other ones that got denied, I deny people all the time. And just because they bring in people to my office and say, well, they did this and they did that, I still deny them, and they come to you people and state their case. If you deny this or grant the 2-family, even though there's 30 people that are against it, they have an appeal process. So there's always a check and balance.
And the same goes, though, the developer has an appeal process as well. But what I was looking up earlier on the whole issue of by right versus special permit, in Massachusetts, it seems they describe the special permit process as sort of equivalent to discretionary approval.
And Danny's
But
gonna do that.
discretionary approval seems to
Right,
me
and you have
that
those
yes
six-
or no.
Yeah, and
Not
but
just
typically,
Yeah.
in my experience, in my professional experience, special permits for duplexes is not something you see typically. The special permit is for uses that would have an adverse impact. Two families do not have an adverse impact in a single family neighborhood. They just don't. You can look at the traffic, you can look at the impacts on utilities, you can look at the socioeconomic, the characteristic. It does not have an adverse impact. It just doesn't. That special.
Obviously, we think it does, that's why.
And I totally understand. We can have differing opinions.
Yeah.
And
There's no argument there. I mean, the fact remains,
there is an argument.
you can put out all the facts and figures you want, but in the final analysis, it was our decision whether or not we were going to allow the special permit. And we discussed it before we voted on it. So I think that's fairly democratic.
So one of the things, at this point, Sam, what I think we should do is jump to, you know, we can take up this discussion when we have the presentation from the town planner. Janet, I think your role tonight was to explain.
That's what I was good. And before, if I could, Mike, all right, Marilyn, just to go ahead, you know, with it, I do want to emphasize that when something is permitted, it still has a check and balance. So with that, it's not like they're going to be able to have a free rein. It just doesn't work like when the government came in and the Army just took over the whole place. It's not going to have that because we do have a building commissioner now. We do have a town planner. So and you know, and we've got strong zoning bylaws. So with that, it's not a free ticket. That they can go ahead and do anything. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that there is a check and balance.
Yeah, I actually wasn't allowed to finish my thought. I wasn't, I was comparing the Army to the fact that it changed the character of the town. And I'm not saying you guys are the Army or anything like that.
No.
But I'm just
I
saying,
understand.
one of the things we need to consider is that just having duplexes now come in every available spot.
They can't.
They can't do that.
If they don't have 24,000.
I mean, if they have the square footage, but.
Right, but they can now.
They can't.
It's just, I'm just saying that one of the things that to consider and think about, because in the future, is just how will this change the character and the flavor of the town?
And I do understand the character.
That's all, the only point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
And I think one of my thinkings behind this is that I saw what happened in the past, and so it makes me more cautious and thinking about how is this going to affect Ayer in the future.
Yeah, I'm glad. And Ayer right now is being changed because it's almost, you know, going through gentrification. I mean, the houses are way out of line where, I mean, I'm just trying to think. I don't know of anybody who can move in here and afford a house.
But it's not just Ayer, I mean, it's everywhere.
Oh, no, I
And like
understand.
Charlie's point as to, okay, a 750 single family or 500,000 houses, you know, that's still, I mean, housing is just insane.
It is.
I agree.
And I laud your efforts to try and get more affordable housing
All
around
right,
here.
so that's why these discussions are good.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you.
I just wanted to let you know
Yeah.
that that's kind of, I think, part of our thinking here is that one of the things we kind of keep in mind is like the future of the town. How is it going to look 100 years from now when we're not here?
I am so
And, you know,
worried about
our
that.
decisions today make a difference, just like what the Army did, changed Ayer.
I live
forever,
here,
too.
my kids all own houses here, and all my grandkids live here.
Yeah.
So I am
Yeah. You're very
completely thinking of
vested
the
in it.
town
Yeah.
first in
Yeah.
every decision I make.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think some of the issue that'll come before maybe the public hearings and town meeting is what is the nature of the checks and balances that the town as a whole wants on things like this?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah?
That'll be a concern.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. We got that. So yeah, again, I wanted to let you know what the informal working group was just about. And yes, we did about 12 months where there was a lot of discussion. And to let you know that we're trying to find ways to make the town somehow more affordable, even though it's not going to be the $170,000 house that,
We all want, right?
That's right,
And our working groups were like this. We had these debates, and there's still people on the working group that don't agree, but as a consensus, we agreed to, these were the best changes to make for Janet's cost for affordable housing.
Yeah. And just to give you an idea, when I talked to the select board, they went ahead and gave a thumbs up. We're going to continue this working group. Okay.
There's more that's going to
And to that point, right, I think one of the things, I don't ever want perfect to be the enemy of good, and I think you guys have put a lot of work into this, and it should be discussed in great depth at the select board and the planning board meetings. Going forward, one of the things that we ran up against with West Main Street, on top of the issue with the square footage, obviously, that the planning board faced, was the height thing. And I would love to see you, or the town planner, to look at this kind of thing. But again, I think you've put a lot of work into this. I have my own concerns that I'll be voicing at the public hearings, but again, it's great work, and I appreciate you coming to present this. I know tonight we got maybe a little more into it, but that's the nature of this board, and frankly, potentially one of the things that will happen here is and again, we're going to go into this in more detail about special permits, but we're going to lose our role potentially in the development of more two-families in town, and obviously we're concerned about that. But that's it, Janet. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
And I would just add that, I was very much in favor of the 40B. I was very much in favor of the West Main Street. I think it was town council was advising against doing a waiver on the 750.
It was myself. It was town council.
It was a zoning.
It was a bunch of.
In any case, I'm in favor of us bringing in more affordable housing. What I'm feeling like being more conservative on is pushing on sort of the monopoly game changes to existing neighborhoods, which is you have a house and then you put up another house and you get all your houses and then you start tearing down the houses and putting up not one hotel but multiple hotels. You've subdivided a lot.
Yeah, we don't have enough square footage in these little lots. You'd have to buy. None of these in this back area, none of them meet today's zoning. They're all under 12,000.
Two of the applications we had recently were subdivided lots that were a single family that now wanted to go to two duplexes, so quadrupling the occupancy load.
No, they could have done a one family and put as many in as.
Outside of that.
Well, that's the facts.
I know.
That's what people need to hear is the facts. The fact says you can have more in a single family than you can in two.
You can, but you might not.
But
the thing is, it's a different interpretation. This is what I'm saying.
I'm not going by interpretation. I'm going by the state and sanitary building code.
Okay,
you
we're
can
going to
have more
disagree.
in one. It's in writing.
I'm done. I'm just saying you're going to hear this. I think you're going to have this opinion expressed by other residents.
I suspect you're right.
Yeah.
And that's why we're getting all our facts together and going to the boards, because we can hear all this so that we can go ahead and get our facts together with regards to the checks and balances. Perfect. Things like that. So, all right. Again, thank you very, very much.
Charlie, thank you, Ken. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
Okay. Oh, you're welcome. At least it wasn't snowing, right? All right. Take care, Sam.
Thanks, Janet.
Janet, before you go, when are those public hearings? What are the dates?
So the select board will be meeting on March 6th.
Okay.
Because March 5th is election.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Right? So they're not meeting on that Tuesday, they're meeting on the Wednesday.
Okay.
And then for the planning board, we'll be opening the public hearings on these on March 12th.
Okay.
And depending on if it's voted or not, it may continue to the next meeting on March 26th.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, and you'll be getting an invite for sure.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay.
All right.
Do a new page.
So, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes. Sam, I saw you had an amendment to those. Was that right?
Just one, I duplicated a line from the December minutes to the January, I duplicated a line from the December minutes to the January.
Okay.
And I deleted them out of the January. So I amended them. I did send the amendments to you guys.
Anybody have any other concerns with the minutes?
Nope.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes as written for December 20th, 2023.
Second.
Roll call vote.
John Ellis, aye.
Ron the football eye.
Jessica Gino, aye.
Marilyn Schmallenberger, aye.
Michael Gibbons, aye. Then we have one more set, right?
Motion to approve the minutes for January 17th, 2024, as written or amended?
As amended.
As amended.
Second.
Roll call vote.
John Ellis, aye.
Ron the football eye.
Jessica Gino, aye.
Marilyn Schmallenberger, aye.
And Michael Gibbons, aye. All right. The next item is board discussions, specifically special permits. And if it's all right, I'm just going to request a 2-minute recess so I can run to the restroom.
Okay.
All right. All right.
4282.
Great.
As you will.
So let's jump into special permits, Dan.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
All right, so this is going to be a quick presentation on what special permits are, how they work, and so what is a special permit? We kind of got into this a little bit in our previous discussion. So a special use permit authorizes land uses that are allowed by ordinance in the applicable zoning district. These uses are between by right and not allowed. So these uses are allowed within the zoning district but require additional review to ensure it will not have an adverse impact on the surrounding area. So special use permits may also be referred to as conditional use permits. Conditional use permits allow for the municipality to have additional review of certain uses and allows the place conditions that would make it more suitable for the surrounding areas. So, like I gave the example before, was like a gas station or a convenience store within a residential, or if you were gonna try to do a there's like different uses on our table of use regulations, like within the general business, general residence, those kind of types of uses that they're allowed, but they may have an adverse impact, so the conditions would make it less of an adverse impact on the surrounding area. Special permits are approvals given to uses that meet certain standards and conditions which are listed in local zoning ordinance. The conditions are often designed to ensure that the use will not adversely impact nearby existing uses. Special permits are commonly employed to protect residential neighborhoods against potential disruptive uses. Uses which might generate substantial amount of noise, odor, traffic, or which might in some other way be incompatible with the neighborhood. For this reason, uses such as gas stations, convenience stores often require special permits. So this is what 48, section 9 is actually much longer, but this is the initial portion they have about what a special permit is. So zoning ordinances or bylaws shall provide for specific uses which shall only be permitted in specific districts upon the issuance of a special permit. Special permits may be issued only for uses which are in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the ordinance or bylaw, and shall be subject to general or specific provisions set forth therein. And such permits may also impose conditions, safeguards, and limitations on time or use.
That seemed like a pretty broad brush.
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to read into section 9, there is much more that goes into it. Goes into specific types of special permits. So in the Ayer zoning bylaws, our special permit has a set of criteria that we have set forth that are used to be considered on whether or not it will have an adverse impact. So, and 320, 3.4B criteria, special permit shall be granted by the special permit granting authority, which can be planning board or ZBA, only upon its written determination that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town or the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the proposal in relation to the site. In addition to any specific factors that may be set forth elsewhere in this bylaw, the determination shall include consideration of these following. So social, economic, and community needs which are served by the proposal, traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading, adequacy of utilities and other public services, neighborhood character and social structures, impact of the natural environment, and the potential fiscal impacts, and including the impact to the town services, tax base, and employment. So when we are looking at a special permit, you have to go through each criteria, and the way the board goes through them is you're looking at section 1, which is social, economic, and community needs, which are served by the proposal. So you want to look at how does this special permit, would it have a beneficial or an adverse impact on the neighborhood on this for social, economic, or community needs which are served. So let's talk about, let's just use a 2-family. This is the easiest one since we've already been kind of discussing it. If you are proposing a 2-family in an area that is typically, there's more single family homes.
Pingree Hill.
Pingree Hill, yes. So would that have a social, economic, or community need that is adverse to the area, or would it be a positive?
From whose perspective?
And so that.
Danny, this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is that I think over the last, say, year or so, you could make an argument on either side of this. And I'm glad hearing tonight that you're saying in a case where the majority of these are not negative, it's a should grant.
Yes.
Right? The problem I have, or maybe not, I think the problem some of us might have is that while there are 6 of these, I could assign a different weight to neighborhood character than I would traffic, right? I would never make an argument that a 2-family would, have enough of a traffic impact that it shouldn't be allowed, right?
Wait.
But you can see sort of, I think, where we've run into problems. Again, I'm glad having clarity, if more of these are positive than negative, we should grant. That's why I asked to have you come tonight. But again, personally, I think that's some of the issue I've had is that I've assigned weight to some of these. And so, traffic flow, I'm not as concerned, 2 more, 3 more cars, but I think that's part of the issue we've run into.
Yes, it's you put a little bit more weight on certain of the criteria, which makes it feel like it has to. You can't approve it.
Right.
Which I understand why you would feel that way because we're all human. We have our opinion. We have certain things that we each want to touch on that we feel is more important. So everyone's going to feel a little bit different about each of the criteria, but that's why it's set up in a way for all 6 are to be considered, and if more of them are in the affirmative than in the negative, that's where it means the special permit should be allowed.
Okay.
I disagree with that.
And that's just state law, and that's
we're reducing it to numeric values.
And I understand what you're saying, but based on what
If they're out of the 6, if 4 of them are affirmative, we should grant it, whether we feel against it or not.
that is what our bylaw says.
Does our bylaw specifically?
This is our bylaw. It specifically says special permit shall be granted.
It doesn't say we're going to review this, and if 4 of them are good, we'll accept it. That's not what it says.
I'm telling you what state law and our bylaw says. And I understand you may have a differing opinion, but town council also agrees with me.
So does state law say a majority? It has to be.
It's set forth in so the way state law says it, it says your special permit criteria are set forth in your zoning ordinance. Our zoning ordinance says this.
And where does it say it has to be a majority of the criteria?
I can pull up the actual zoning bylaw. Actually, I didn't bring my whole, you have one of their bylaws, can I? Thank you.
But I think that, let's see, the effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts.
Correct.
I think
That's what it says.
is probably what you're pointing to, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just make sure. Special permit. Yeah, so that's exactly the section, yeah. Because it says that of the authority only in written determination, the adverse effects of the proposal use will not outweigh the beneficial impacts of the town or the neighborhood. So using these 6, if 3 of them are, if you're tied, say, at that point, then I can understand there's a toss-up between how you want to vote. But if 4 of them,
Where does it say we have to use the majority, we have to grant it if the majority of those 6 items are in affirmative? Where does it say that?
In the way you're stating it, doesn't specifically say it that way. In our bylaw, it says special permits, it says that the adverse effects are not outweighed by its beneficial impacts. And these are the 6 criteria.
You just said 10 minutes ago that if there's 4 out of the 6 were in the affirmative, it should be granted.
Sam, it's because the way the bylaw reads, it's not a may grant, it's a shall grant.
Correct.
Right, so special permits shall be granted by the special permit granting authority only upon its written determination that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town or the neighborhood. So, in this case...
How do we get into these numbers? Where did that...
That's what our bylaw says.
Yeah.
It's been this way since I've been here, and I believe this was rewritten in 2018.
Yeah.
Yes, 2018.
If you have more slides, Dan.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Back to Mike. All right. So that's the special permit criteria that you, each board member, and as a collective board, is to review.
And we have
for
reviewed these, fairly recently when we went through our rules and regs. We discussed this, the variance sheet that you brought up tonight.
Yep.
We've gone through that, so
Okay.
we have taken a look at this.
All right, and then, so these are the conditions that we set forth in our bylaws, but you can impose others. It doesn't necessarily need to be set to each of these. So some of the special permits, and let me just step back, that's why they're also called conditional use permits, because you want to use the conditions to make sure that if there is some sort of adverse impact that can be fixed by a condition, you impose the condition. Say if you want the front of the house to be looking like a single family so that the rest of the neighborhood doesn't look like it's, so that it can match the rest of the neighborhood, the characteristics of it. If you want the garages to be on one side of the house so that the driveways are on there, so that there's no effect, that it doesn't look like 2 families are coming into it. There's ways to condition each of the criteria. So if you go through the criteria and you feel that there's an adverse impact, you have to look, is there a condition we can imply that would, help get rid of that adverse impact? And that's why you're allowed to condition each special permit. So some of the ones that we have set forth is front, side, and rear yards greater than the minimum required for the bylaw. So if you guys want to impose a tighter footprint, you can. Screening buffers, planted strips. You want visual buffer so that other neighborhoods aren't affected. If it's like a commercial use right on the edge of a residential district, you can have certain screening to make sure that the neighborhood isn't being affected. They don't have to look at certain things like landscape yards, stuff like that. As well as design for lighting to make sure that it's minimized, dark sky compliant, limitations on size, occupancy, so it's like...
What the hell are we going to do with occupancy, Danny?
Well,
that seems crazy to me that we would condition that.
And that's not for a single family home. That's
even for a duplex, that would be crazier.
No, I agree with you. On that one is... I just used duplex as an example.
Right.
This is conditions that could be set on any special permit.
I just don't want to make this even more subjective, I guess is my concern, is that, I asked you to come tonight because I want some definitive answers as to how we can continue to work as a board through special permit applications.
Yeah.
To me, some of this makes it even murkier, but it's in our bylaws and I understand that.
Yeah, and I understand. So also,
interrupt.
no, that's okay.
Okay.
They're, so I don't know if you guys know about these, but CPTC holds some workshops, webinars.
John just
They're, yes, John. So they're very helpful. They give a lot of information on these special permits, on all these different types of uses that would help, for a little bit more information. If you have any other questions, because on those you're allowed to ask these the webinar people questions and all that kind of stuff. So they have a little bit more information as well. So like, yes, like occupants, that is like if we're using a special permit for some sort of a restaurant in a certain area, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking that's more of a
conditions-
commercial use than a.
Yeah, exactly. So these are just set forth conditions that we have already spelled out, but it doesn't necessarily mean these are the only conditions you are set that you can do.
Okay.
Because planning board, when we have a special permit that comes before us, you can set conditions that are outside of this, but the only thing you have to do is make sure that the condition is not going to cause a negative impact for the developer in a way that is unattainable. That's where they can appeal, and then if it kind of goes down that road.
Okay.
Another example was limit how many work vehicles on for a landscape company within a residential zone. So you could like do certain things to help lower the adverse impact if there's a special permit criteria that you feel it doesn't work. Can we condition it to make it work?
Yeah.
And that's really why you have that condition, the ability to condition things.
We've conditioned some.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
Did we do that with the gentleman who wanted to have the commercial vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, that's what it was, yeah, so.
Yeah, it's and with special permits, typically you have a lot. There's typically
Leeway.
Conditions. Yeah, you have leeway with that. So these are decisions for the special permit. When the Zoning Board of Appeals is considering the special use permit, they must go through the 6 criteria, which we already talked about before. The Zoning Board should go through each of the 6 criteria and determine whether the proposed use would or would not have an adverse impact based on each criteria. Each board member should state whether the proposed use meets each criteria. If the majority of the 6 criteria are in the affirmative, the Zoning Board shall grant the special permit. The findings within the decision will state if the application does or does not meet each criteria. So within the findings, you'd have a section basically showing all 6 of those, and there'd be an explanation underneath the saying, it does meet it, it does not, and why. And then also, if there's conditions, they'd be added to the decision as well. And then I also put this together. So CPTC is actually having an annual conference on March 16th at Holy Cross. Some of the planning board members have already signed up for it. You will get reimbursed. You can choose 3 of those classes to attend. There's a morning, an afternoon, and and kind of like a late afternoon class. The way it works, and you can choose 3 of those. So those are all the classes that they're giving. If you feel you want to attend, you can sign up, register, and then we will reimburse for that registration. And a lot of these classes are pretty good information and very helpful. The roles and responsibilities of planning and zoning board of appeals, non-conforming uses and structures. That's something you guys deal with a lot because you guys are the zoning board. So that's another one that would be good for you guys to.
What about number 9?
Laurel and Hardy go to planning school. I actually didn't even see that one. I missed that one.
You must go to that.
Yeah, I'll definitely go to that. So like MBTA zoning, like I'm going to be doing a webinar on February 26th, going to the MBTA zoning to just hear what's being updated on that, because we're kind of still working through the MBTA zoning over here with us.
Great.
So these are all of these classes are really helpful.
And the webinars are really great too. Most of them are later in the evening.
Yeah.
Like this past year, I think I took like 5 or 6 of them. So
great.
Yeah, the webinars, the CPT webinars, usually those are that's the annual conference, so they have more classes that are a little bit different than they typically have in their spring and fall classes. The spring and fall classes, they'll have like a special permit one, a site plan review, a 40B comprehensive permit, non-conforming uses, all different types of what should a zoning board consider during their deliberations and stuff like that. They have different types of classes. These are all great classes that the board should think about taking up on these, and the town will reimburse.
Great.
And some of them are free.
Yeah, some of them are free, yes. All right, and that's what I had. Any other questions?
So Dane, if I understand the special permits right, so
Yes.
if we issue a special permit, we can put conditions on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if, for instance, the duplex is taken out, so then they get it by right, so then you can't put special conditions on it?
No. So
Right.
I guess my question would be, where in a duplex, what would be a situation in which you would need to make a condition? And this is just me trying to ask a question.
Well, you mentioned making it look like a single-family home would be a condition.
Yeah, and that's something actually the working group has been talking about, possibly putting into our actual bylaws of requiring two families to look like that. So that's something that we're working on that we haven't gotten to yet, that we've been running through with Charlie as well.
I just want to make sure I understood that.
Yep. And I know we're focused on the two family, but remember, you guys have a lot of other special permits that this would apply to. So, whatever other special permit would come through.
Like the home occupation, you guys have special permits for that?
You could condition the time frame for
Yeah,
them
we
to
did
work.
that recently. We gave them 2 years.
Yep, exactly.
Just to see in case there's problems down the road that we can revisit it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Anybody else? Questions? Well, I'll say this.
Wait, Ken had his,
I just wanted to add one thing to Danny's explanation. Thank you, Danny. That we often forget, but you have to bring it up at every meeting, that is special permits require a supermajority.
Yes.
That's an obstacle that is difficult for many applicants to overcome because that's, it's complicated, 4 out of 5 sometimes. So there are some cases where the majority does not rule, and this happens to be one of them.
Yep.
So with special permits, it's an extra hurdle to have to carry.
Well, according to our rules and regulations, dictated, I think, by the state, they're all supermajority except extensions.
Yeah, they're all supermajority.
They're all supermajority.
Yeah, special permits are all
Yeah,
supermajority.
all of those special permits are supermajorities, right.
Site
So
plan
that just says
review.
that-
Variance as well. Everything we do
Yes.
is supermajority,
Right,
with
that's a
exception
zoning board.
of an extension.
Exactly.
Yeah, as a zoning board. Planning board, it's a little bit different.
Now, there is a wrinkle to that, because there is an appendix to the law where if it's affordable housing
40B.
within a mile of the rail station,
Yes.
it only takes a majority.
vote. Yes, yes.
How would you get to work?
Yeah.
That particular affordable housing piece.
Yeah, and that's actually within section 9, if you read that as well, it talks about that as well. Section 9 of chapter 48.
Yes, that's where I got that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a much longer, that's why I didn't put all the rest of that.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
Sam, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, Jess,
I'm okay.
Marilyn, good. Ron? John?
Well, last week, or last month, our last meeting, you said that you started a discussion and you wanted to keep the discussion going. Has that been satisfied by this?
So, for me, I think it has, right?
I wasn't here, so, because
So we were discussing, I think, the special permit process.
Well, we were discussing both variances and permits.
Yeah.
And how we base our decisions, because there was a little discomfort about how comfortable we were with arriving at these decisions.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just permits, it was both. But
Oh, the variances.
If we're done, we're done, and I'm okay with that.
Actually, so Sam and I have discussed that at the next meeting I would give a presentation on variance. And then at the next one, it would be on appeals to the board. Just to
That would be
kind of-
great.
Yeah.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of special permits,
Yes.
personally, this satisfies what I was looking for.
And if
right?
you guys have any more questions, you can always, reach out to Sam, send them to me, and then I can always answer them. If I can't, then I can always reach out to town council on them.
The biggest things that I'm going to focus on as we go forward and we consider special permit applications are shall grant, and then the measuring of, there are 6 criteria. Danny's saying, and I'm going to take your word for it, I
Yep.
trust you. If the majority of those items are not negative, it's a shall grant situation. Charlie said as much. Nobody has to agree with me, but going forward, that was what I wanted from tonight, was a clear and definitive, this is what the bylaw says we're required to do, the state says we're required to do, and what our town planner says.
So the only question there is, how do you determine in a special permit whether it's completely in opposition to what the bylaws have? I mean, it's easier with variances because you're looking at dimensions and you're looking at, a
It's no
whole...
longer subjective, John. They've taken the subjectiveness out of it. They put a weight factor to it, and there's six criteria, and if the majority of the criteria are affirmative, then you shall give it a permit, whether it's subjective or not.
And just to be clear, I did not make that change. That's something that's been in there since 2018.
But some of these are heavier weighted in discretion than others. Right. Number 4, you talk about...
Yours
Number 4
might be heavier. Your number 3 might be heavier than my number 5.
Correct.
I mean, again.
And that's why it's set up
I
that
understand that, but the problem is, basically, what we're saying is it has to be 4 out of the 6.
He said that, we didn't.
No, the law says that, right? You know what it said?
Yeah.
No, it's
We
the
have to do
majority.
What law?
our zoning bylaw. You said the majority of these. So that's
Does it
basically,
say that?
Yes.
yes,
Says it in there?
yes,
Yes.
In that bylaw?
yes. In our bylaw, it says,
I can pull it up.
says the majority.
It says right there.
But,
says.
but my point is, neighborhood character and social structure could outweigh 3 of the others.
And so, and I understand that, but that may outweigh it for you, but not for Mike and not for Marilyn.
Well-
It's subjective. There's a, I understand you guys are giving each
Okay,
person.
even if we have different ranges of how we feel about that,
Yeah.
if the majority of the board feels that one of these has a lot more weight than the others, and we're still required to agree with 4 of them, even though one alone is enough to sink the ship.
No.
That's what I think this does, is it takes the weighting out of it, right?
Yes.
So we might say, and I keep going, we're using it as an example, so I'm
Yeah.
just gonna
Yeah, yeah,
continue
yeah.
to use it. A 2-family may deteriorate the character of a neighborhood. I'm not saying I agree with that, I'm just using that as an example. That is one factor of the 6.
I
So
understand
if
that.
traffic impact isn't, and the other
And,
or 4 that
yeah.
are fine.
And remember, and I know we don't want to ever think this way, if it were to get appealed and it was denied based off of one thing like the characteristics, we would lose.
So then we would have to wait 3 other ones just to make our point.
So you're
That what you just said there, I don't agree with that, what you just said, because you have to also back up the information.
Well, that's the point. The
Are
point
you
of the,
suggesting that we would vote in affirmative for fear of retaliation or appeal?
no.
I'm just saying, there's a reason we have a bylaw, special permit criteria, it's specifically stated, and there's an appeal process. If you guys felt like that one example where you said you had 30 residents in here, it's not your purview to take how they feel over what the special permit criteria says. They have the ability,
disagree with
and that's fine. They have the ability to appeal it at that point. It's
So
they
does
on
the
them.
builder.
But that's the problem, and I understand that, and this is what we're trying to avoid now, because it seems, and I don't mean this in any way, it seems that the duplexes have been getting denied frequently, and at this point, it seems like it's becoming a common occurrence, and we don't have the backup that we need for those denials.
Where does it say the majority of
Again,
these
I think
factors?
I disagree with that because we pretty much hammered those, whatever point we either granted or denied, we discussed it at length.
On a practical note, so if you have to have the board deciding majority of these 6, how do we decide what the board decides on each of the 6? We have to resolve 5 different opinions on
Yeah.
each one.
Yeah, so like the planning board, what we typically do
Yeah.
is, if we have a special permit, we go through each of them. We all discuss, and they vote on what do they think, yes or no.
So it would be a vote on each of the 6?
Yes.
Okay.
And you put that within your finding.
Okay, I can see that.
That's great.
Did you get that down? Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I can take in on this tonight.
That's all I can take.
But again, personally, I think it provided some clarity now
Yeah.
for what we can do.
These are what we're up against. Warring opinions there.
Anything else? Anybody?
Just as a general statement, where does the town as a whole get to weigh in on how fast the town increases its population?
Town meeting, right?
Town meeting?
Town meeting, but in the sense of,
Yeah,
I
in the sense of not
Yeah.
weighting everything on making it easier for developers.
well, I wouldn't say
And
we're making it easier on developers. I mean,
Yeah, we are.
Just did.
Yeah.
so if a single family homeowner
Yeah.
wants to tear down their house and build a 2-family, they should have every right to be able to do that. I don't understand. That doesn't give a developer more of an ability than a homeowner does. It's
Yeah.
so the multifamily. That's where I understand what you're saying. Is like the developers would mostly be doing those, but they still have to be reviewed. They have to go through the full process, site plan review. Inclusionary housing triggers it. So there's multiple review processes that they would go through, and residents are welcome to come and voice their opinions at those. And with these changes, if town meeting feels it's a no, then it's a no, and that's how town meeting works. I feel the town should have the ability to make that decision, not us boards. I feel like that's how town government works.
Okay.
All right, well, while we got you,
Yeah.
Danny, I came ready to go to battle tonight
Okay.
because there was a memorandum by Robert something.
That guy.
And so I just, for clarity's sake,
Yeah.
I was looking at the select board packet last night.
Yep.
And the zoning bylaw amendment, article number 30, amendment to section 3.2.a of the Ayer zoning bylaw, size of the zoning board of appeals in accordance with MGL chapter 40, section 12. Could you just provide quick clarity on that?
Yeah, actually, so I think this is something you guys had previously discussed. I think you were not here at that meeting for
Sounds
it.
right.
Yes, so basically, what that is within our zoning bylaw, we just reference that, the board is made up under what chapter 40A says, which town council has opined that we need to specify because chapter 48, all it says is it's either a 3-member or a 5-member board. Our bylaw does not specify, so we're just adding in the section of it's a 5-member board with 2 associates.
Yes, maybe 3 or 5 in our bylaw. It has both numbers.
In our
It has
bylaw, it
anything
does not.
right now.
No, it does
I looked
not.
it up.
Yeah, our bylaw does not specifically state. That's why we're adding it. The state one does.
Oh,
3 or
I was
5.
reading the state.
Yeah, the
State
state
does.
says 3 or 5, but we need to specifically say what our board makeup is. So we're just adding that language that we're a 5-member board with 2 associates.
Yep. That's it for me.
Questions on that, on the zoning map or anything?
Not yet.
No.
But I'm sure we will.
I mean, I can give you guys an update on that one. So basically, the zoning map is being updated. So in I believe in 2019 and in 2020, the Ted Maxon properties were rezoned through citizens petitions. And they were voted and approved. But since the zoning map was never updated and approved at town meeting, those rezonings aren't real yet.
Okay.
So what we're doing is I had the zoning map updated to show those two properties as general business. And if town meeting approves it, which I'd assume they're going to approve the map since they approved the citizens petitions,
Yep.
it'll make it so that then they can actually continue their process of site plan review and other stuff.
Great. Okay. Anything else? Okay. With that, the upcoming meetings, Sam.
I have no official submittals for the next meeting. I do have one person who's been talking with Charlie and I to see if they might be able to make it in time for March. They might not.
Okay.
And then, as Danny said earlier, we had discussed that, he did a presentation on special permits, and it might be beneficial to do variances and administrative appeals, just as a general refresher.
And maybe if we don't have any applications, we still hold a meeting in March, and instead of doing variances and appeals in 2 meetings, if we have no applications, we do it in
We're
one.
doing one. Yeah. Okay.
And that's all.
That's just my opinion. But, anybody feels differently, speak up.
No, that's fine.
And then that's all I have. So.
Okay.
It's March 20.
March 20th? Okay. And then we got planning, select board on March 6th.
Yep. Select board on the 6th. March 12th is planning board, and then possibly the 26th will
If it's
continued.
Okay. All right. Anything else, anybody? No. Take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Roll call vote.
John Ellis, aye.
Ron Phil, aye.
Jessica Gino, aye.
Marilyn Schmallenberg, aye.
Then Michael Gibbons, aye. That's a wrap.